Welcome back everyone to the Castlevania Original Timeline Review Marathon. Last episode we ventured back into World War I in the events of Castlevania Bloodlines. And now we're venturing to the year 1944 where German dictator and leader of the Nazi Party Adolf Hitler rose to power and start World War II. With that out of the way, let's review Castlevania Portrait of Ruin. Portrait of Ruin is a platform adventure action RPG game released in Japan on November 16, 2006, in America on December 5th, and in Europe on March 9th, 2007, and finally in Australia on March 22nd. In this game, we take control of two characters, much like in Castlevania Rondo of Blood, those being Jonathan Morris, the son of Bloodlines hero John Morris, and the new user of the Vampire Killer, and Jonathan's childhood friend Charlotte Allen, a mage and distant descendant of the Belnades clan, which started with Sypha during Castlevania III Dracula's Curse. Now, Jonathan controls much like Richter does in the opening of Symphony of the Night. Midair control, and you can even do that funny whip dangling thing. The plot is simple. Stop Dracula. Though there are some new baddies in this game. An elder vampire named Bronner and two sisters named Loretta and Stella, the daughters of Eric Lacard. So the plot is way thicker, almost on the same level as the other Metroidvania games. So, oh boy, this is what I kind of don't like about doing these kinds of reviews. The plot summary. Okay, so prior to the start of the game, two sisters, those being Stella and Loretta, traveled to Dracula's castle in search of their father, Eric Lacard. After traversing through the castle, the two arrived at Bronner's lair, where they find their father defeated. And seeing the two sisters, Bronner grabs them and turns them into vampires, which then brings up to the beginning of the game, with Jonathan and Charlotte encounter Vincent, almost said Victor there for a second. The two encounter Vincent at the gates of the castle, who serves as a merchant. Upon entering the castle, Jonathan and Charlotte encounter basically an magic. Hold on, I have this word in my script, and I'm trying not to butcher it. Basically a blue figure which they first identify as a hostile enemy. After the figure transformed into more of a humanoid male, he explains that he was killed a short time ago and had to cast a magical barrier to keep himself conscious while still within the confines of Dracula's castle. He then takes up the name known as Wind. Later in the game, we find one of Bronner's magical paintings. They get a page out of Mario 64, eh, Konami? So after destroying the painting, and many more later, we then see one of the Lacard sisters, and soon we meet Dracula's right-hand man, Death. And later, Death destroys Bronner and revives Dracula. And we then have to do the standard thing. Head to the throne room, and after returning the Lacard sisters back to their senses, and kill Dracula. Okay, pretty much the standard thing. But there's a twist. Death is also joining in this battle. Yep, it's a tag team battle. Jonathan and Charlotte versus Dracula and Death. If you beat either one of them, Dracula basically absorbs Death's powers. And once you kill Dracula, congratulations, you've beaten Portrait of Ruin. So that's the plot. So the plot overall is quite great. It's what we expect from a Metroidvania game. Though there are some extra game modes after you unlock that you basically unlock after beating the main game. One mode that has the most significance is Sister Mode, where we play as Loretta and Stella. You can actually use this mode as a prologue to the story before we take control of Jonathan and Charlotte. Now instead of reaching Dracula, you have to reach Bronner instead. And we also have the returning Richter and Old Axe armor from Symphony. Richter mode allows us to play as Richter Belmont and Maria Renard, returning from not only Symphony of the Night, but Rondo of Blood. And yeah, they're basically using their Rondo of Blood and Symphony of the Night versions. Old Axe Armor allows us to play as the enemy of the same name, but since it's one character, we cannot swap between characters. And of course, we have the classic Boss Rush mode, where we have to fight every single boss in the entire game. So basically, like any Metroidvania game, this is what I love. But how's the gameplay? The gameplay of Portrait is a 2D side-scrolling gameplay, much like other Metroidvanias. There are of course tons of rooms to explore, upgrades for Jonathan and Charlotte, and they can combine their powers to perform a powerful attack known as a dual clash, which is basically a more double up version of the item crashes used in Symphony and Rondo of Blood. And they can be used to solve puzzles and progress through the story. Now, of course, there are two different endings. Of course, the good is canonical to the timeline and all. If you want to get the good ending, you have to explore more of the castle and gain access to more paintings. Okay, really? Just because we didn't explore more paintings, we run a risk on getting the normal ending? So does the gameplay hold up? In some regards, yes it does. This is actually what I like to call 2D action RPG fun. But with all that being said, is Portrait of Ruin still good? Yes, it is. While the requirements on getting to the true ending is befuddling beyond belief, I can still have a good time playing through. Mostly because I find the storyline interesting. I'm giving Portrait of Ruin a 7 out of 10. But now I want to hear from you all. Did you enjoy Portrait of Ruin, and could you recommend it to a friend? Leave your answers in the comments below. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, turn on that notification bell, and follow all my social medias. I've been Harkit, and I will see you all in the events of Castlevania Aria of Sorrow for the Game Boy Advance. Take care, everyone.